already introduced myself very nicely earlier. I'm Suzie from Considerate Group. This is Isaac with a colleague. It was predominantly Isaac's work along with another colleague, Leah, who put together the Green Tourism Toolkit. The session today is a quick half an hour, and rather than us doing lots of talking, there's a bit of us talking at the beginning, but actually an opportunity for you guys to put your ideas and thoughts down on some paper, partly so that we can take it away, and we will make sure that we've got everybody's email addresses from who was in today's session, and we will provide you with some follow-up afterwards. So hopefully it's kind of a useful session where you'll get something out of it at the end. So it's about you guys participating as much as us telling you some stuff.
Great. So welcome to our little session to just try and help you get to grips with implementing green tourism, with a particular focus on Lincolnshire. So you might have heard of phrases like ESG and CSR, kind of abbreviations. Those are ways of splitting up sustainability into kind of manageable areas, but what we tried to do to focus on smaller businesses in Lincolnshire is split it up into people, planet and place. Susie's already given a nice introduction to what green tourism is in her earlier section, but essentially it's a way in which you operate tourism businesses or run tourism businesses in such a way that you meet the needs of today without kind of inhibiting the ability of future generations to meet their needs. So this comes to consuming resources, and that doesn't have to be just kind of natural things like electricity, gas, but also social resources, economic resources, and kind of people as well. So I'm going to do a quick introduction as to what we mean by people, planet and place and what's covered within them, and then we'll do a few activities to get you thinking about how you can do it, take it away and kind of implement it in your areas. So people are vital to Lincolnshire. I think we've seen a few figures before. It kind of contributes almost 2.5 billion to the economy. Obviously, the caveat has always been 2019 figures. Has 20 million visitors and supports, again, 2019 figures for over 30,000 full-time equivalents. So for businesses to be green, they have a responsibility to have a positive impact on all the people that they connect with. So the groups of kind of people that you connect with in your business will be your staff. So kind of Susie mentioned already, staff increasingly looking at businesses to have green credentials as a kind of key factor when deciding where to work. Customers, we've already seen how customers actually want green credentials in the products that they purchase and the kind of activities that they do. And then suppliers, so up to 90% of a business's supply chain can be, or up to 90% of a business's environmental impact can come from its supply chain, depending on your business type. So it's really important to make sure that the people that you engage with in different businesses and that you purchase from are on the same page as you and are kind of working towards the same goals. So that's what we mean by people. And you'll also see on your tables you can organise into sections. So remember those sections for the tables.
We will come and help it.
So planet kind of focuses on our planet. So all businesses consume resources and produce waste, which has an impact. And when we talk about planet in this context, we're talking about energy. So that's what you use to power and heat your building, whether that's mains, electricity or gas, or in the more rural areas, oil or any other means of doing that. Water, obviously the water you consume has an environmental impact to produce it, and then the kind of discharge of it as well, wastewater, can also affect things kind of down the line. We all produce waste as businesses, and the carbon footprint of Lincolnshire County Council, 53% of it comes from their waste. So it's a massive factor towards climate change, so it's always to be really kind of mindful of. I think transport's been mentioned in one of the previous sessions as well. That's obviously a huge factor with how people kind of get around, and unfortunately I don't think there's only one cycle-friendly workshop, but that would have been quite a nice one to kind of feed into that. And then pollution, so that covers the main three sort of groups, which is air, water and ground, or soil pollution, but there are many others. And just to put into context why it's important, so 1 in 19 deaths, premature deaths in UK urban areas are due to air pollution alone. So minimising that is really important as a business, because we all have an And the final thing is carbon. So bringing together kind of all of those is your carbon footprint. You're consuming energy, but that has a knock-on effect on the carbon footprint. Same with water, same with the waste that you produce. And that obviously contributes to climate change. So that's planet. And then the final section is place. So Lincolnshire has a really rich cultural history and really kind of diverse natural environment, which are all factors that contribute to tourists wanting to come here and businesses wanting to come here. So as a business, you've got a really good opportunity to support good practice that's kind of celebrating your area, celebrating the wildlife that you have, and making your place really kind of attractive to those tourists. So this section is split into 4 areas. The first one is sense of place, which is really about how you celebrate the local area that you're in. So are you putting up kind of nice imagery of your surrounding area of, I don't know, cultural attractions down the road, or have you got kind of Hilton Hotel pictures of kind of an orange tree or something throughout your property? Biodiversity obviously touches upon the kind of natural environment that you're in, what you can do to kind of impact that and have a positive impact. Cultural heritage, again, focuses on the kind of self-explanatory, but the kind of history and the arts and traditions that have been built up in the area, because they're all unique to Lincolnshire. And then finally, local communities. So what is it that you can do as a business to impact schools, disadvantaged groups in your area, engage with those networks and actually have a positive impact, you know, work placement, training, all of that sort of thing. And I will hand over now, we'll kind of cover that to Suzie.
So that's how I'll gallop through what each of the areas covers, but rather than for us to then spend ages trying to delve into those, we actually thought it would be better for you guys to do a bit of thinking about what those kind of areas mean to you. So on each of your tables, so we've got 2 planet tables, 2 people tables, 2 place tables. So just thinking about the subject matter that you've been given in your table. First of all, if you don't know who's on your table, have a quick, very quick introduction. But then what we're interested to know in the first instance is to note down anything that you're already doing in your business that you think supports people, planet or place. So just note down, because actually one of the first things to do is go, you know what, we're actually doing some stuff. That's quite good, because I think people don't realise how broad sustainability is. So it's good to kind of go, actually, we're already doing some stuff, and maybe we should be shouting about that. So the first few minutes are just saying hello to those on the table and noting down under relevant subject area what you're already doing that you think is worthy of note under that topic area.
I think it's group work. If you need anything in terms of like trying to define what things that you might do as a business that are impacting people. So it could be anything from kind of staff wellbeing initiatives to speaking to your suppliers about their sustainability, to kind of sharing good practice for the business. It's so broad that it's really good to just try and understand what you're already doing before you, so you can kind of have that and know where to go.
What was the around the table? Relevant destination management organisation or council. I think every real destination meant like business I guess we are businesses regardless, so it's all about thinking about so for me I guess it's how we communicate with customers. My channel is trying to get green tourism across what people are doing, because that's one of the biggest barriers. No one's telling people what they're doing about sounds horrible, like you have to do that. The organisation is doing that can then be shared in terms of people, so it's practical. organisations to do it, we've stopped thinking about it.
Yeah.
So there's these things inside those types of things, so considering supply chain, all of that kind of thing, I think. Ability to write. Fit into like the local recruitment as well. How do you proactively recruit locally? Without when you can't get anyone.
Well, I guess there's, proactively just trying to, so it's looking at where these, we'll come on to issues later, so at the moment it's supposed to be what you do, that's good. But, sorry, but it's things like making sure you advertise over, then if you're not getting it, why you're not getting it, is college school leavers don't think that the element of tourism that you're operating in is something that they want to do. Therefore, as part of the community place part, should you make things to a local school where you start making it. So it's about different areas that you sort of go, what's the issue, and then how can I address it, rather than just going, how does it go? It might be a long game rather than a short game, but if you're in business, it's working at the best. So,
as we're making them aware, symbols, or just thinking of like events and things that are happening. We've got an event happening this weekend on Saturday night, which is international. We do events actually provide
it's already coming up on the consultation. What do I do about this challenge? So the next task that you can start at the same time as writing down what you're doing is good, is start thinking as well about what are the challenges in terms of doing more for people, planet or place. So if you're already doing something really good, but then you hear that someone else on your table is doing something, you think, that sounds good, we can never do that because X, Y, and Z. Or we hear what Isaac just said, but we can never do that in our organisation because of X. What are the challenges of doing more? So add those down.
We've got examples on the board, initiatives, food for thought, but you don't necessarily have
You'd already moved on, so I thought we just moved the slide on, because then you can do both at the same time. That's really positive if people are part of it. The only reason I've taken over the pen so I don't need to speak. Is there any, I don't know whether there's any organisation and have donations and various things throughout the year, and then as a group you decide where that one goes, say, course, things like that. So that kind of so
I don't know about, because I'm sort of part of the council. I try to just kind of look at myself and what I need to be doing rather than worry about what everyone else is doing. But I know they've obviously acknowledged the sort of climate crisis in London, given but yeah, so acknowledgement and still bragging about the world.
We're on to the next one.
So charities, is that a change of group to support for charity
What's the challenge with groups locally? Just lack of really.
rather than and its price. Certainly within the organisations that we all work with, once it's done, it's set in 3 years, supporting charities that are committed to change. It's about demonstrating that an organisation is reviewed locally, so give it back to So again, that's a bit like the corporate social responsibility thing, isn't it? What are the other challenges? A lot of it comes down to cost. I was just going to say, it's changing people's mindsets.
And the third and final part that's going on your papers, because some tables already started thinking about it, is what do you think some of the solutions might be to those challenges or to doing more of the good things? And think about, is there any internal changes that are needed in your organisation? What external support or financing might be needed to overcome those challenges? So have a think about, if you come up with a solution, what is it? Is it on you or is it someone else needs to try it?
Well, art and program amounts to spiritual
Who do you guys work for? Our district councils. And they're often very long. They're set in stone. Is there any working with the procurement team to have sustainability added, not instead of, but as well as, so it starts to be considered? So that's where it's as a solution for the future, because if they're going to need to be able to demonstrate their responsibility, there needs to be
because all of our places have acknowledged the issue and set themselves targets, so this is the change that needs to be implemented.
and then keep asking guys to present their sustainability policies. And it's quite weird not to be asked for sustainability or responsibility policies. And central government has started to do it, so my sins used to be part of DCMS and DCLG, working with European funding on the environment. All my sins, like I said, but with all of that, European funding comes with the caveat of the supplier has to tell you what their sustainability is, and it's not. It doesn't mean that it's more than value for money. It's not more than experience. It's not more than its impact. So it just means you're very forthcoming.
It's true, if we're using all that money in the area, isn't it better to be spent in the area and then get spent again in the area? response to RFP or RFQ is actually getting to having to do a simple question that's like, whatever what are you doing, what are you really doing this time, what like naturally a task, community development, and if they can't answer, then it doesn't necessarily get it's not there, but there's ways to it's not planting a tree. It's not planting a random tree, it's the same as the tree next door to all the other trees.
The outsourcing of shine light on it. Changing the procurement process by adding sustainability into consideration.
And are you comfortable that you know how to do that? So it's like so it's like the knowledge as well to do that and those bit of experience to kind of
It does in it, like you say, to the scoring, isn't it? We're a huge figure in the cost to make it the cheapest possible. But that's not do you? Yeah, so we can break down which actually is like each tender that you decide. They might be able to walk to work, cycle to work if they're
Okay, we've got 5 minutes of our lovely session left, which we appreciate. It's a very short little half-hour session. So we're going to just go around each table now, and we're going to do a people, a planet, a place, a people, a planet, a place. So and we just want to have just a couple of lines in our last 5 minutes of kind of, I guess, let's focus on where you think the key solution is to your subject area. So we're going to start with this front table on people. I'm going to just scribble it as well. So what's your key solution that you think you've come up with that's a requirement under people? Education. Education of people. Of all people or of suppliers or
Kids.
okay. So from yeah. And that's something that you think as a tourism business can get involved in. Great. Fabulous. So we're going to go to people planet, this first table.
We've got changing habits really, trying to remember to turn lights off or switching things off, so sense to using local suppliers, reinforcing recycling schemes, switching over to electric vehicles, encourage cycle-friendly facilities.
Fabulous. Thank you very much. And then front table for place. Some of your solutions.
With some of them are repeats, but our new ones were we thought it was a good idea to encourage a member of staff to be the green champion.
Yeah.
And EV charging points and the maps of where they are. And I think the rest of the repeats are very
Great. So it's an overlap. There always is a lovely overlap, which is nice. Back table on people, please.
I think we went with one of the sort of focusing on the challenges of suppliers. So looking at the solutions is how we go through procurement processes.
So changing procurement process.
Yeah, adding sustainability in there. Into like your scoring mechanism that we have to do.
and luckily the toolkit, I'm just going to do what Susie's doing. The toolkit has the kind of, it's surprisingly, there's a whole section on that responsible procurement piece, and there's an additional downloadable resource. So definitely have a look at that. It's like first port of call as to where to start. Because yeah, it will set you up for building on it.
Planet back.
So I think the nature of the beast is we start discussing solutions, and we just came with more challenges.
That's fine. Tell us what some of your key challenges
So
were.
we
You might have a solution in the toolkit.
So we started looking at cost being a massive challenge.
Yeah.
So we started discussing cost, and that was things like maybe getting local authorities to lobby for more sustainable funding, and the circular economy, and things moving towards that. And then we realised that then that creates the challenge of time, because we don't have time. Consumer choice is already being restricted by values and rising prices. So our thoughts were, can you talk to people and say, we're going to get benefits out of this because you're doing the right thing, which is great. But if we're all being pushed because petrol's £1.70 a litre, there's only so far goodwill will go. And I know we want to look in the long term, but we also live quite short lives compared to the long term, so it's difficult to make those decisions. And knowledge was the other one. We really want to sort of improve that knowledge base. Research evolved regularly. So one of the challenges with that is that people start doing what they perceive as the right thing, because that's what thinking is right now. In even as short as 6 months' time, to continue to say, oh, that's not the right thinking. So it's about making it start now and not feeling guilty and just adapting when things change. But also, there's a lot of disinformation out there, so that's okay.
Fantastic. Thank you. And then last but not least, table on place.
So yeah, we spoke a lot about infrastructure, the time to do things, management. One of the things we focused on quite a bit was about transport and getting around, because there's a heavy focus on cars in Lincolnshire because it's such a big county. About train lines, about reintroducing train lines as well, then about the sharing of information as well. So whether it's train times or whether it's about what's going on in whatever location, and making it quick and what's the word that I'm thinking of? Live data. So,
Which is what this been
It's kind of starting now.
So power as well, there is an issue of power. So we have lots of clients that would like EV charging points in some rural areas, but there's simply not enough power in the grid to actually use them. So we've got to address that as well.
Right. So we're going to take your sheets away and we will come back to this lovely grid that shows you what support is out there for these. But as you can imagine, the toolkit covers these things. So there is a section under people that looks at education and working with local schools and how, as a business or organisation, you might get involved with local schools to impart knowledge, but also partly linking into the how do we employ locally. There isn't anybody to employ locally. Well, let's start engaging school leavers and college groups in that. So something about that. Isaac's already mentioned that there's a lot about suppliers, and there's an additional procurement supplier checklist tool that you can either use it as it is or borrow and steal bits from. In terms of planet, definitely there's a lot around changing habits, and what kind of top tips you can do, including the downloading of the checklists, which are particularly around water, waste and energy, and they're all they're ordered in kind of quick fixes that don't cost any money through to things that have got a bit of an investment but with payback periods. Talks about local suppliers, that's actually under the supplier section, but they all muddle together a little bit. There's more about waste and waste management and measuring waste. There's an area on transport which links to the Cycle Lincolnshire hubs, but also talks about the importance of, if you've got the space for it, can you offer undercover secure bike storage, and can you promote that as a way of encouraging different type of customer and linking up with other attractions, so that you can say, when you do come to us by bike, then you can get to these places within a day's cycle around.
Also for your staff as well, encourage them to.
Yeah, staff travel, and then kind of addressing some of these is in the grant funding section around like cost and where can I get some money from to implement some of these if I don't have it. I'm not able to give up that 2% that Ed was talking about earlier. There's a whole section on what are the benefits and how do I communicate those to internally to myself, but also to any stakeholders. And there's information about more knowledge and sharing of knowledge in terms of a shared community using the hashtag of Green Tourism Lincolnshire to make sure that you're sharing best practice. Mary hinted that we're going to be doing some additional work starting on the coast as a trial project, and that's setting up a group of Green Tourism Toolkit ambassadors. So that will also help with this, but also looking at kind of how can that fit in with Destination Stewardship Council kind of frameworks. In terms of encouraging green champions, there is a section in the toolkit. There is also an additional resource to download on why bother, but also how to set one up. Under the transport section, it talks about EV charging points. There's a link back again into the costs and how do we do it. The wall tower, yes, that's something that we can't do in Green Tourism Toolkit, unfortunately, but it talks about what you can do within the current remit. Time management and infrastructure. I guess the toolkit is put together in a way that's bite-sized, so that you can kind of cherry pick the bits that you want to do, and even though all of that is covered and more, it's not saying you have to do it all by yourself and do that by tomorrow. It's saying, here are the different parts. What part inspires you? What part are you interested in? If you're particularly interested in education, then start up here. If you're particularly interested, like me, because I'm a weird type of person, in waste and waste management, and you want to go ferreting around in your bins in your recycling area, then start with waste and look at that and how can I better monitor and manage that. Or you might be like, actually, we love where we live, and I just don't think that we're promoting it enough to our guests and making enough of it with staff, getting involved in the local community. We did loads of that during COVID, but we're not really doing it now. Why not? So pick the thing that inspires you the most, because just because you're not doing the other things yet, that doesn't matter. Pick the thing that makes you go, yeah, I've got something I can do here, because then you can take that away. That becomes your story. You've got something you can promote that you're already doing. The rest will follow behind. And then you can also do things like look at the lovely case studies of other businesses that are already doing a thing, speak to them. And I think the thing that we're always saying is sustainability shouldn't be a competitive advantage. It should be, as in for individual organisations, it should be a collective Lincolnshire competitive advantage. So sharing information about how you're achieving and overcoming some of the challenges and implementing some of these solutions should be shared. Which I think then brings us to the end of our half an hour, does it? Unless anyone has any questions.